everybody. Welcome to the new show. No, this is not my office. There are excellent deep dive training courses out there by fantastic companies like Microsoft and of course our partners like Pluralsight. And there's great vlogs and videos that are out there on deep diving technical content like my friend Mike Pfeiffer, who's got cloudskills.fm. This is not one of those. First of all, they're going to be pretty short. Not this first episode, but most of them are going to be. And I'm going to take you everywhere with me so that we can talk about things that impact PowerShell and you. And we're going to focus on the latest goings on, not just with PowerShell and not just for ops. We're also going to be looking at dev-oriented stuff and with all of the teams that are impacted by PowerShell. You know, a lot of people say, you know, PowerShell is the glue that brings everything together in the cloud, on premises, everywhere. Well, if it's the glue, great. Let's talk more about it. And I need your help. And there are going to be plenty of moments you never know who we're going to run into. Hey, you're never going to guess who I just ran into, but Microsoft technical fellow Jeffrey Snover, that's you.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, we're going to be at Ignite. You don't want to miss our session because with the oncoming release of PowerShell 7, we got some really good stuff to show you. By the way, we don't actually know whether we have that session or not, but it is one of the most requested sessions ever. And also, yes, of course, we're going to do another video series. You better believe it. And guess what? Something very special for you this time. What? At this point, I just can't shut my mouth. So let me give it to you in a nutshell. We're going to give away an original Jeffrey Snover tie during this series, but we need your help. So the original series, Getting Started with PowerShell, is up on Microsoft's Channel 9. If there's a favorite moment, a moment that really capsized the boat for you? Seriously? That's what I'm talking about? No, really captured PowerShell for you. You really got it at that moment. Or if it was just a really funny moment, tweet to me the time code. Don't send it to Jeffrey because he's got a real job, but send it to me and we'll select our favorite one, and that's the person that'll win the tie. And we'll, of course, do a big video announcement, all of that kind of stuff. So right now, back to something else that I'm droning on about. And yes, of course, there are going to be silly moments with very important messages, and there's going to be serious moments. I'm going to be showing you some brand new things, and I want to make sure that you understand how to use them and what gotchas there are out there so that, well, you do good with PowerShell. So let's get down to it. Today's technical focus is actually coming to us from Jim Truer. You don't know who Jim Truer is? This is Jim Truer. Get out of it. Ow! And knock it off with a huggy. Jim's a really good friend of mine. I'm inviting him over to my new house. Now look, when PowerShell originally came out in, November of 06 with Exchange 2007, one of the things that happened really fast is a lot of us adopted it. You may have been someone that adopted it early on. Because we were adopting it and pushing the team to increase its coverage of the technologies that we could reach with it, there were some things that were not so on fire that kind of got left behind. That's what we're going to talk about today. Jim sat down and closed one of the gaps for us and getting some additional commandlets to help us with, well, a space that was kind of challenging. We're going to talk about the environment space that you have and the variables that are in there. And Jim made us some commandlets and a module that's currently available on the PowerShell gallery that you can use to manage that space. Now, careful, there are going to be some caveats in here because while it does let you manage it, you can get hurt there too. So let's go ahead and dive on in and take a look at what Jim's made for us that you can try out now. So let's get started. Very first thing, $PS version, so that you can see what version that I'm doing this demonstration on. I'm on preview 2. We just came out with this about a week ago. And the other important thing I want you to notice is right up here at the top that I'm doing this on a VM. It's very important that you realize the stuff that I'm going to be showing you or the people that come in and that I bring in to show you things. This is brand new stuff. So make sure you're in a safe testing environment always when you run this. Don't just type this stuff in at your laptop or you can get hurt. This is a great example of one of those times where you could get hurt. Let me clear the screen and you want to find this module. It's in that gallery. Jim put it up there for us. The name of it is Environment. If I spell this correctly, I get kudos and extra points because it should come back with a return result that it's there. And of course, I didn't spell it right. That's fine, because if you don't know how to spell something, PowerShell's going to help you. I'm going to put name, and I'm going to put the part that I do know how to spell. Strike enter. It'll go out and take a look at the gallery and see those. Oh, there it is right there. That's the guy that I want. So one way or another, we need to be able to spell that correctly, because I want to be able to install it. Install module. And the name that I want to install from the gallery is environment variable. And I practice typing this and everything. And we'll get this installed. Now this variable is going to get installed. This module is going to get installed. You didn't see the progress bar on mine because I've already pre-installed it, just to speed things up a little bit. And let me show you around. First of all, you know the environment space. You've been there before. And I'm going to do a dir, and you'll get a listing here of the environment variables and the data values that they have to them. And you've seen oftentimes, you'll see this in scripts, and we'll even do it here at the command line. And let me just change it back to the C drive, where we will do things like this: env computer name, right? You see this in a script all the time, well, at least spelled correctly. That'll give us the computer name. So this is a great place to retrieve information from. And these new commandlets help you, not only with retrieving that information, but also modifying it. So let's take a look. I'm going to do enviro star, because I can't spell environment variable commandlet module. This will give you the list. This is the list of commands that you would normally expect. You can create new ones, you can change the existing, and of course you can remove them. And let's all agree that the word remove does mean remove, okay? I'm going to show you, trust me. Now you can get, by using the get command, environment, there we go. And there's a parameter. If you take a look at the help files, Jim did a great job at writing up the help files and giving you lots of examples for this. But in there, you're going to find a parameter name, so you can specify the name, and I'll do computer name. And I can get the same kind of information. Now, I want you to show you that this is not a string, right? If I send this to get member, this is actually an object called environment variable. If you want it to be a string, well, oops, there it is. Value only makes it just the string. So now you can pop that into a variable or do whatever it is that you want to do with that. Now, it's not just getting a particular environment variable where this comes in handy. And yes, if you just strike, let me do this, strike enter with no parameters, you'll get the entire list. What a lot of people face when they work with this is they start trying to do things like this. See, you've seen this before, where we'll look at the path. And you look at this and you go, well, gee whiz, I'd like to be able to read this better. Well, there's something that you can do called split. And I'm going to split this so that it makes, oops, too many parentheses, so that it makes a much more readable list. When you're looking at this, some people say, gee whiz, I want to add a path to Windows, or I want to remove a path from Windows. These commandlets may help you, they may not help you. And I want to show you what I mean by this. First of all, you can add variables of any of your own names with their own values and remove those very easily with these commandlets. But let me show you where things get a little bit more challenging. In this case, let's do that. Let's get environment variable. There's a whole list. I'd like to get name path. I can also do that same thing where I can do this as a value and then put in a path separator with a split and have it list real pretty. I can not only get this path, but I can add to this path. So let's change this to add environment variable, name path, and let's put in our own value. And I'm going to put in a value of C:test. Doesn't really matter right now if it's real or not. I'm just going to put it in. Just to show that we have it, whoops, $env path. And let me make it look nice and pretty for us so that we can take a look. You'll see it right down there at the bottom. Now, one of the interesting things about this is that path is an array. And one of the things that Jim added to this, if you take a look at the parameters, in this case, I could also, whoops, there it is, prepend this. So instead of the bottom of the list, I can put it at the top of the list. And in path, the search order does matter, right? So this is a decision that you might want to make right up front if you were modifying something like path or an array. Here's where things get a little bit more challenging. These commandlets are here for you to help you manage this environment space, but not necessarily a particular thing in the environment space. Path is its own thing with its own registry keys. While this is getting modified, I want you to notice something. This is only being modified in the scope of this session. How do you notice this? Well, I'm going to close this window and I'm going to reopen it. Launches as administrator, and let's do this. Let's do $env. Let's do path again, and yes, I have to type it all over again since I closed it. No more C:\test down here at the bottom. The scope was just for this session, so whatever modifications I made, it only happened to the stuff here. Now in this case, that's a benefit. I'm going to show you why. Let's go back and do another add, and let's do add environment variable name to an existing one of path, and the value that I'm going to add is C:\test. Let me show you this one called scope. Now there are 3 scopes. One of them is, and if you hit tab, they'll display for you. The first scope that you're in is the process scope. So in the case of path, the path was put together and given to this process when it launched. So what you see in that path statement is in this process. That's the default. So if I add it, it by default goes to process, which means, well, I can hit the up arrow key. You see C:\test, and it's only in the process. If I close this window and bring it back, it won't be there. But what if I want to make this permanent? Well, you have a couple of other options, and those options are machine and user. And this is so that you can specify from where, H key current machine, H key local machine. Remember the registry stuff? That's where this is coming from. So you can go back and modify the registry. Now, this is only for Windows. Scope only matters for Windows. As a matter of fact, I was doing all of my testing on my Linux box, and scope has no bearing on Linux. Everything is in that process. But on Windows, you can write this stuff back to the registry, and then it matters. I want you to notice something. If I were to run this, it would add that into the machine scope. So if I made a mistake and I close this and reopen it, the mistake lives with me. So you might be asking, well, how do I get rid of that mistake? Well, usually, if you created the variable name and the value, that's really easy. We've got remove environment variable. You specify the name that you created and then the value, and it gets rid of it. Well, here's the interesting thing. I've got path. This does not let you go through and select which one of the elements of this array that you want to get rid of. See, this lets you manage the environment space, not the path itself. So this gets a little tricky. If I do this command right now and hit enter, do you know what happened? Do you know why I'm getting this failure right now? Because path is gone. That would be very bad, right? But do you happen to notice what I did? And this is why I always do things on VMs. I didn't specify a scope. The scope by default is process. Yay, thanks, Jim. And so the only harm I've done is to this session. So all of the stuff in this process will go away when I close this session. However, if I had run this command and I had put in something like, I don't know, let's do scope machine. And yes, I have tested this on my laptop by accident. Yep. That's actually going to do you serious damage, as in non-recoverable kind of damage. So be very careful. What Jim's done for us here is he's helped us close the gap further by giving us a module if it decides to want to display today. There we go. giving us a module to help close the gap so that we can better manage our environment space. But like a lot of things, you got to be a little bit careful. While this helps you with the environment space, there are things inside there that take special care when working with them. In other words, they're different. They're their own thing, like path. So take a look at these. And if you are someone who needs to either add variables and remove variables or just get information from what's already out there in the environment space, these new commandlets might be useful. If you've already been doing it the other ways that we've always had with PowerShell, well, just go ahead and keep on doing it. But we've added more commandlets. It's pretty cool. Anyways, that's our show for today. Now look, I've got some more stuff coming up that is specifically for devs and of course more for ops, but also coming in the near future. We want to talk about some RFCs. There's interesting RFCs that are coming out right now and we need your help, and you can help us understand what's the right thing to do. Also, if you haven't worked with RFCs and you don't know what the process is, yeah, I'm going to shoot a future episode that'll show you the RFCs and how to contribute to them. And before some of you ask, I already have. So, coming up in the future, we've got a lot of great stuff. Until then, of course, PowerShell. And hey, help someone. Well, that's what makes it so natural and easy with you.